Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sales Chatter. I'm your host, Ryan. I got my buddy Jeff here. Today, we're going to be talking about education before commission.
Let's
Let's
go.
hit that intro. The right
Oh,
one.
yeah.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
So I got to
Good
tell you,
morning.
Jeff. Good morning. This is something that I've always wanted to kind of dig into. I think it's like really, really important that we kind of get into education before even picking up the phone. Like even your
Oh,
first
yeah.
call. Good morning. Good morning. Pretty sure that's gonna be Lisa. Good morning,
Morning.
everybody. Oh no, Lisa's Lisa. Lisa, you lost by
Hey,
like half a second.
Did-
we gotta give the crowd or something like that. I don't know what's going
oh,
on, Lisa.
yeah.
You gotta be here.
You've got competition, Lisa. Somebody's filled my spot.
Yeah, I know. She's come for number one spot. I know she'll be on it tomorrow morning right away. So
Yes.
Jeff, like I said, this is something that I really, really like. This is something that we can go in so many directions with. I
Yeah.
feel like you can do a 10 episode on just education alone. But let's just kind of get started in terms of education. What does that mean to you? And what is when somebody says, "Hey, I got to educate my customer. I got to educate myself." What are some things that you kind of do for your own self?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, Ryan, that it starts before the call even happens. It's pretty much planning out your week, especially if you're in a specific niche. You want to know who you want to reach out to. You want to know about the company. You have to dig into that. You have to do research. You just can't do it uh, coldly, if that's a word. But before you make the cold call, you have to know who you're talking to. It's very, very important. You have to know their background. You have to know the company, what their product line is, where their facilities are. You really got to dig in deep because you have to get on their page before you even make that call and then be ready for those questions, so that there's some type of congruency, which is missing. And I know that as a fact because being on that side of the fence on the operation logistics side for 35 years, I used to get those calls from those logistics guys and those freight brokers that never did any background check. And another thing is that it's just important for the shipper to do the same damn thing. It really is, because if you want a good service provider, you want to know who you're dealing with. And so if someone calls you up, you want to know that person, you want to know who they work for. It's not really the company. Let me
Yeah.
rephrase that. It's not the company that you're working with. It's really the individual. Yes, you want to know the services that they can provide you and if they can support your needs. But it's that person, it's that key point of contact that you are going to be engaging with, that you really need to know that he knows your business and you know him or her. So, yeah, it's very important, extremely important.
Perfect. And it's for me, as a sales rep and educating these shippers as well. I'm a big believer in control the controllables. Anytime I send an email or I send a phone call, it's not up to their side. Like it's not my personal feelings for them to get in the way, right? So I detach from the outcome. What we can control is the output that we make. Education is a huge one for me. I like to kind of do the research, going into modes of research, because I know on LinkedIn or other kind of like YouTube videos, everyone says do the research, do the research. This is why I really like the show today, because we're going to give exact reasons and exact options of what we actually do. For myself, when I kind of go into research for a brand new prospect, is that before I even pick up the phone, you do the research. I like to look at sustainability reports. That's something that's big for me, that I like to go green. That's something that it's a personal belief of mine. And it kind of comes back to Jeff, what you always kind of say, like you want to find that niche, you want to find that ICP, somebody that you can work with, right? So
Yes.
if you're a dog lover and the company doesn't believe in, like, let's say sustainability or anything like that, then it's like, might not be a fit for you to connect congruency, right?
Yes.
So for like the research, like what I like to do is sustainability reports. Before I actually call the shipping manager, and let me know what you kind of think about this, Jeff, is that I like to call other departments within the company. I like to call sales, because as a sales rep, who doesn't like to talk to another sales guy? We can talk each other's ears off and find out the true information, right? Like sales reps are usually easy to show their cards a little bit. Talk to accounting, find out what issues they're having, because the shipping manager can be saving a whole bunch of money on their end, but when it comes down to the accounting process, it's taking time, right? And time is money, as you know. But Jeff, what do you kind of think about like basically calling different departments? Is it something you kind of do right now? What's kind of like your train on that?
No, and here's the reason. And everybody has their own ways of doing this. For some, traffic manager, logistics manager, they might think that you're going behind their back before you even engage in them by going to these other departments and hitting them up first, and then coming to them and then saying, hey, by the way, I just talked to your freight payment services department. I just talked to your operations manager, et cetera, et cetera. Well, why didn't you talk to me first? It's like you're leaving them out as last, and they're the ones that are managing everything, and they're the ones that have their finger on the pulse in every department, because they're managing it, right? They're managing the day to day. So what I prefer to do is engage in that top guy. Even if you go to the C-level guy, the guy that signs the checks and everything, it's like what I've always said to my people and where I've worked, it's the question that needs to be answered is, let me ask you, who signs your check? No, seriously, Ryan, who signs your check?
The company. The company that I work with, but
no. The ones who sign your check are your clients. They're the ones that pay your customer and your company, and your company therefore pays you. Without that engagement and getting deep into their operation, you're not going to get paid, especially if you're an entrepreneur and that you're a broker. So that John Hancock on that every check that you get every week that goes into your bank account is your client's signature. And that's the most important thing of everything. So you want to try to do whatever you possibly can to service the needs of your customer. And how do you do that? Well, one thing is that you can become an SME, a subject matter expert in a specific industry, vertical, niche, etc. And then what you can do is highly educate yourself around that niche so that you are the go-to person in that area or in that vertical. For myself and throughout my whole career, I never wanted to pigeonhole myself into any one part of the supply chain in any vertical. I just wanted to know a little about a lot of things from cradle to grave. So in case that question came up, you can have a pretty good intellectual conversation with them about a specific topic. And then if you needed to do more research as things unfold, you know where to go to find that information, to give it to your prospect or your customer to help with the engagement to build those long-term business relationships. So I wouldn't necessarily go to the freight payment services or start honing in on the other side. What I would do is engage that top guy and ask him about the specific problems that they're having internally that you could look into as a service provider besides moving freight. Like I said, every time that I talk a prospect or a customer, I don't talk about freight. That's not the most important thing, but in the long run it is, if that makes any sense. The thing is to uncover the hidden bank, as I call it, and start, digging deep into those areas to add value. And that's what it's all about, at least for me. I know it's different for a lot of other people, but it does work.
No, 100%. No, and that's why I love having this discussion, right? Because everyone does have a different method of how they kind of do things. And I didn't think of in terms of education, we've had Dean Crook yesterday, every Wednesday. I make it a personal thing for me to actually send out yesterday's video to people to let them know, like, in case that they're not fully aware of it. That's a good piece of media that you can send without sending a generic, hey, I have trucks in the area email, or hey, when are you going to give me a shot? No, the way that I kind of operate myself is that just like a bank account, I want to make deposits. So anytime I send over a video about education, like Dean Crook's, or let's say it's an article or something like that, it's about making deposits, and then eventually it's going to build up till where I'm going to make a withdrawal, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to find out all about their supply chain. In terms of like research, so I want to get into like, hey, what you actually kind of do in terms of what do you specific? Is there any kind of key things you look at when you're either talking to a shipper, you're talking to a prospect, even talking to your carriers? What kind of research do you physically? Hey, I get in front of my keyboard and let me search away and figure out some things.
Yeah, like Ryan Muhammad. I bring up your LinkedIn profile. I looked at where you work. There's a lot of guys in the logistics industry that kind of bounce around and they touch points in different operations throughout their career. So you want to try to see if you have that background, when you go to engage in them, oh, this guy worked in CPG. I have 20 years of CPG. Let's see who he worked for. Oh, I know that company. I used to speak to so-and-so there, and so it's all about linking things together and having a commonality, and the company as well, digging into the company, the background. I always go through all the different pages within the website itself. I want to know where their facilities are. I want to match that up against my expertise and where I've moved freight, and then kind of saying, well, that's not really in the geographical area that I specialize in, but this one is. So you start building that conversation around specific things within that company, whether it's international or it's rail, and they say it sometimes when you dig into it. Sometimes it says, "Oh, fill out this form if you want to become a service provider and engage in us." Right? I mean, yeah, okay, sure. That's just going to get tucked or put into a shredder, So the other thing too, when you were talking about deposits, and I'm going to sit in a logistics chair, okay, and you are contacting me. One thing that I found very irritating, and I think it's related, Ryan, to how much revenue is at stake to divide up amongst carriers. Okay, if you're a big shipper and you're like 50 million, $100 million, you're going to get hammered a lot. And what comes with that hammer besides calls? Emails. And what comes within emails? Brochures, this about this, this about that, and everything. And what happens is that your inbox starts getting flooded. It's listen, it's part of the industry. It's part of what we work in. It's what is expected. But the thing is trying to, at least on my side, because I found it very irritating, is not to engage in that and start pumping out those brochures and start sending all this other kind of stuff in there. I would only do it after I have engaged it and someone has an interest in what I have to say about my value, my background, my expertise, my niche, right? The verticals that I've worked in. That opens up the door. Hey, can I send you this? I know you probably get a ton of emails, but listen, I'd love to send you a little bit about my company and what I specialize in, and then you just go from there. But I've talked to a lot of people too, fellow guys that I've worked with in the industry for a long time, and that's a big issue. Just imagine, how many of us are out there on the brokerage side, and how many send those emails to the same guy how many times a day. It's it gets filtered into their trash folder really, really quick.
And then it's like, you know what, I completely agree, because like even when I first started, we have an introduction package, and we just kind of basically spray and pray right from that end, but that doesn't get you anywhere. Lisa brings up some really, really good points here, saying that finding something to build rapport and connect with the person, work towards building a strong foundation towards a long-term partnership and relationship. And that's the way that I kind of operate. I'm a relationship guy. If I see somebody like through LinkedIn or anything like that, they've got like, obviously I'm actually repping Brandless Rescue Goods, who I volunteer with. We sell merch and we give it back to dog rescues. But anyways, if somebody has anything to do with dogs, I connect automatically. Like that's my kryptonite. So if it's a shipper or anything like that, I think with this industry, it's an $800 billion industry at least. We have the ability to pick who we want to work with, right? At the end of the day, like it's 100% fact. And Lisa brings out something here as well, is that have to find a way to stand out and be different.
Absolutely.
like you said, you don't send out those intro pack emails. It doesn't make sense to send out brochures, right? For me, I'm a big video guy. I will send videos, I will send articles, I will send different things. But like I said, that's for me making my deposits, and not even we're coming back to emails too, because like I find like a lot of emails, education, that I've seen, they're way too long and they're too wordy. If you can't, my personal emails are less than 3 sentences, to be completely honest. That's the way that I kind of operate. Something personalized, boom, here it is, boom, I'm out. I detach from the outcome. Poke the bear and then leave. That's kind of the way
Oh
that
yeah.
I kind of
Oh yeah.
operate.
You got to leave that, what I call the 3 second impression, because that's all
Yeah,
they're going to spend on it is less than 3 seconds. It's going to be that subject line and pretty much the first sentence. And if it sounds the same like every other email that you get, it's gone. So you have to be creative in your when you're sending emails and creating emails that just grabs that attention extremely quick. And like I said before, and I'm being honest, I don't make many calls. I really don't, because I just specialize in certain things and I focus everything in on that, and then I expose that company and I drill deep into that company. And like I said, every company has spider legs, and it goes out to many different vertical suppliers, vendors, DCs, manufacturers, everything. And I do a touch point on every one of them. And then what happens is that they too have spider legs. And so one becomes 3, 9, 27, 30, and before you know it, if you do it right, you don't have to make a lot of calls. That's just the way that I do things, because I know that you spend so much time making cold calls, that it takes up a lot of time and takes away from your focus on the priorities that you should be focusing in on, especially you have big customers, and then you divert that focus and you start making those phone calls and you're looking at all these other things. Like I said before, to me, and I keep on saying it, it's not about the quantity of calls that need to be made every week. It's the quality of the calls made. Are they quality? Are they going to get you into the door? That's why it's so important for those to figure out their niche, their specialty, and focus into that mode, whatever it might be, and just engage in that. Keep on putting the foot to the pedal on the gas, man. It's just like you got to go. So again, everybody's different, but I just find it a waste of time when you have to make a gazillion phone calls and you're getting maybe 1 or 2%, return on
And
that.
it's not the way, because like I've been in the industry for almost 6 years now. And when I first got into the industry, there was no training, there was no education. It was like, hey Ryan, here's a call list, bang these out, 100 calls a day. You're gonna get 10 opportunities, you're gonna close one. That's honestly the mindset it was. And then when I went over to a different company 2 years after, it was a different mindset, and to kind of break away from that. And now it's more tactical, hearing from guys like yourself, hearing guys like Dean, hearing guys like Dan. It's amazing to actually see like, hey, you're working smarter, and that's the kind of bring up Lisa's point here. Everyone in the audience, what ways do you guys educate yourself? And just not only from like the logistics side, like Jeff, like for me, what I like to do is educate myself personally, like personal development, right? How I can be a better son, how I can be a better husband, how I can be a better person, right? In terms of relating that, because I like to give your personality. I feel like you as a sales rep or operations person and you as a person should be the same. Like there shouldn't be, maybe it's amped up a little bit, but it shouldn't be two completely different things. Like I'm talking like you here. I'm not going to pick up and be like, hey, my name is Ryan. It's just not the way that I operate. In what ways do you look to, obviously you have tons of experience. In what ways do you kind of educate yourself other than work life, your lifestyle itself?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, and this is really, really funny. I was just thinking about this last night. No kidding, no joke. What I found, and I'm ashamed of, I'm very, very honest, and my integrity is first and foremost, is that I have put so much into my business that I forgot about myself. I really did. And I really need to reevaluate me personally, physically, I wouldn't say mentally, but when you're building a company, you kind of forget about your own needs as an individual, which is very, very important. And what happens is that your focus is so focused in, you have your goals, you have your objectives, but you forget about your own personal needs. And you should really start, I wouldn't say deteriorating, but hey, I gained a lot of weight. I'm sitting in my chair, I'm concentrating, I'm educating myself day in and day out. I'm reading a lot of articles. I used to put a lot of content out there on LinkedIn, and I kind of went away from that because my priorities and my focus were in on other things. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really have stress or anything. I know it sounds funny working in the logistics industry, but I've learned how to separate the things that are controlled, that you can control, and the things that you can't control. And I found over my career that I used to put a lot of emphasis on the uncontrollable, my fault, this, that, all of that. And I mean, I could go into it a lot, but I'll keep it short. And what happened is I got high blood pressure many, many years ago. And it was really, really high because I took everything to heart, and I made a decision and said, I'm not going to give a shit anymore. I know that sounds ignorant, but I say it in such a good sense that, like I said, you can control the controllables, but you can't control the act of gods. There's no one out there that can. There's some predictability in the industry that you can fend off if you've been in it a long time and you know what to look for. And then there's things that just blindside you day in and day out. I don't care who you are in the industry. You know what I'm talking about. Every day you get in the office, it's not the same day. You're going to get hit with something. It's how you react to those adversities that are going to affect you, your company, and the outcome. So you have to really think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. And once you realize that, things will change for you in many, many ways, in a very positive way, I should say, because I had a lot of negativity for sure. And to go back to what I was talking about, focusing on the business and not taking care of myself and gaining weight and, having those priorities and goals and objectives, it's not a negative, it's a positive because things are going in the right direction. But now I've got to step back a little bit and start taking care of myself.
And like you mentioned, like I know we've kind of talk off air. You're planning a nice vacation next week to actually go and detach, And one thing I always say, I know, like we kind of, I'm very anti hustle culture. That's not the way that I personally believe in. I'm not a fan of saying, I personally, and this is just a personal opinion of mine. Whenever I kind of hear that, freight is 24/7, I kind of cringe a little bit because, yes, it is. Yes and no to a standpoint. Like you got to set yourself up with your team and everything like that you don't have to be available 24/7. You got to be able to detach, have some hobbies, do some different things. I know with Lisa, I've talked to her quite a bit. She has like affirmations. That's something that I've personally brought into my life.
Yeah.
There's something I'm probably gonna give Dan an aneurysm by saying this, but I personally hate reading books. I'm sorry. Like I'm not a book person. I don't retain information. I've tried the whole leaving the notes, all that stuff. I've tried ebooks. I've tried audiobooks. I'm not a book person. So in what ways I personally like to develop myself is videos or basically going to an in-person class. Like I learn better when I'm with other people rather than, hey, I'm just sitting on this book. And then put a 1 in the chat, or if you agree, and Jeff, let me know if you agree as well, is that do you feel that we consume way too much content because it's so much available around us that sometimes we just get a little bit sidetracked?
Yes and no, because a lot of my competitors out there, I do read their posts and they have great content for sure. Do I read all of it? No, I'm actually looking for specific content where I'll engage in it, but I won't be doing it all day long. I've got 4 27-inch screens here in my office, and I always have LinkedIn because I'm engaging and stuff like that. But I don't really do that. More or less, I'm looking at like G Captain, Maritime News, Freight Waves, the DAT. I'm looking at things that will give me knowledge. And again, a lot of good people out there in the industry that put out great content. I can name several of them. You know who you are. and I appreciate it, and the industry appreciates it. And if you just kind of hone in on what you really are looking for as far as content, look it up and stay in that lane. Don't try to overdo it and try to absorb everything that's being posted out there. It's going to drive you crazy. But yeah. So to answer your question, Ryan, yes and no. I mean, I'm just being honest on that. It's just there's so much out there. There really is, and it's good. It's good stuff. It really is. It's good stuff.
It's amazing stuff. And Lisa brings up a great point here. First step is recognizing what you can and cannot control. And at the beginning, I said control the controllables, right? I can't control how a shipping manager reacts. I can't control if my carrier is they're having some issues or anything like that. But what I can do is get ahead of it, right? And she says here, control what you can and cannot control, then letting go of the things you can't. It's a waste of time and energy to focus on the things you cannot. And that's so right, I will say this, Jeff, like every time I have a banging phone call with a prospect or a customer, I'm amped up to hit another 5 or 10, right away, because you just want momentum is a thing that's so important. And that's what comes with education, right? I know we got to get into the lane of the day.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, let's get into that bad boy. Beautiful graphic. So the lane of the day today is going to be from Greenwood, South Carolina to Memphis, Tennessee. The line haul RPM is $2.36 a mile. With fuel, it's coming at $2.99. Contract, including fuel, is looking at $2.93. So only a difference about 6 cents or so. Year to year, the difference between spot is going to be 3 cents. We're looking at a significant jump, likely driven by the in-gate closure initiated by the NS. Current rate is about 43 cents per mile higher than the August average. So that's a pretty good lane right there if you want some data on that. And that as well, that's education, right? Like there could be somebody listening who does this lane and could take this back as well. Jeff, in terms of research and coming to your habits, like you said, you've got to kind of detach from the business a little bit and kind of work on your personal self and things like that. What kind of habits do you think has worked for you over like the 35 plus year career that you do daily for yourself in terms of work and professionally?
Well, I don't look at my emails when I first wake up. That's for sure. I used to look at them throughout the whole night. You're sleeping and then you just happen, to wake up, you grab your phone, you look at it like, God, did I miss something? So I turned it off because you really can't do much at night when you really think about it, right? So, get a cup of coffee in the morning, then I open up the emails, I open up, all my screens, what I want to look at in the morning, look at my analytics every morning, see how I'm doing, see how my team's doing. And yeah, I mean, and then I'm starting to break away from my desk during the day because I kind of sit here for 8-9 hours. I really do. Because I'm always reinventing and stuff. So those are pretty much in the most simplistic way. That's my habit, but I got to change it because I do have some bad habits. I got to break away, got to walk around the block, take an hour out for my own self and start thinking about, like I said, thinking about me. But that's what I do.
Yeah, and you know what? I think this should probably be another video. I think next Thursday you and I should probably get on here and talk about habits. I think habits is such a great thing. I not to call you older or anything like that, but I'm a lot younger in terms of what the demographic and everything like that. So for my people around my age and stuff like that, we tend to get on Instagram, get on TikTok, and we just endless scroll, right? Like how many times you go through a rabbit hole on YouTube or something like that, and those are things that we can control, right? But it's something that I was talking about, we consume way too much content, you can put on the news. That's so much content right there. You go on your phone, there's so much content waiting for you right there too, right? But I think we'll leave that for another video because we can get into this.
And to your point, I was you, man. 30 years ago, I was a hotshot, man. I thought I could do everything. I was always constantly busy and I was outworking everybody. I could load a truck faster than anybody else, because I used to load trucks, you drive forklifts when I first started out, that's why I have some pretty good experience in there, because I've done a lot of that stuff and then worked myself all the way up. So yeah, I understand, the younger generation and what they're going through. And my advice, slow down, take it easy. You're going to get to where you need to be, but think about it, and have a lot of patience and do it and focus in on what you are good at, and don't be a jack of all trades or think that you can do it all. You're going to find yourself getting pigeonholed, and it's not going to do you a lot of good, and listen to your peers. Talk and engage with your managers, ask questions. You heard it many, many times. There's never a stupid question. Talk to mentors, SMEs, other people in the industry. Learn as much as you possibly can, but pace yourself. Pace yourself, pace yourself, pace yourself.
Perfect. And I think that's a perfect way to end it. The only thing I would kind of say, just be a student of the game, that's
Absolutely.
just always be continuously learning. I want to thank you, Jeff. Honestly, it's been so much fun. Enjoy the amazing vacation. Any kind of cool things you're getting up to today or tomorrow? I know you had like the golf tournament last week for that amazing charity.
Got one next week. I'm going to be on Trey Griggs' show next week, I believe on Wednesday. Got a lot of RFPs, got a lot of stuff that I'm working on still, and my partner as well. So, full steam ahead, man. Got to keep the foot on the gas, but pace yourself.
Definitely, for sure. So I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning, taking a look at us. We are going to be hitting the replays at 12 and 3 o'clock Eastern time. As always, you can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. Sorry, not Instagram. Well, we're going to get an Instagram page eventually. LinkedIn and YouTube as well. Want to thank, honestly, Dad for obviously giving us the lane of the day. I thought it was an amazing episode, and thank you, Centurion Trucking, for always being around us and being a sponsor of the show.
Absolutely, man. Have a
Centurion Trucking. Our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and start designing your career today.